Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Good morning to all of our listeners here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Welcome to another edition of Front and Center, where we put very significant issues affecting our country, the Philippines, as our program title says, Front and Center. On behalf of our colleague Jerome Toledo, I'm your host for today, Steph Vicente, joining you all for a 30-minute worth of talk discussing important matters with our government officials, people from the private sector, or even members of the academe. As seen through our video live streaming, you may watch and listen to Front and Center through our Facebook page. Just search Radyo Pilipinas World Service. The same goes for our official YouTube channel. Meanwhile, we also have an audio live streaming thanks to the Evox PBS receiver app. You may download the said application via Google Play Store if you are using an Android phone, or via App Store if you are using an iPhone. Once you have entered the Evox PBS receiver app, just find the logo or icon of Radyo Pilipinas World Service in order for you to be able to listen to our programs such as Front and Center. We are also back on shortwave radio starting last December. Front and Center is part of our English service, which airs from 10 o'clock to 11:30 in the morning. That's Philippine Standard Time. You may listen to us via the following shortwave frequencies: 12.020 megahertz, 15.640 megahertz, and 17.665 megahertz. For today's edition of Front and Center, we take a closer look at a significant ruling from the Supreme Court of the Philippines that could shape how future election disputes are handled. In a decision released on Monday, the High Court ruled that simply having a nickname similar to another candidate's is not enough to declare someone a nuisance candidate, nor is it automatic proof of intent to confuse voters. The case involves the Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, and a 2024 electoral dispute in the province of Ilocos Sur. The poll body had earlier declared Charles D.B. Savellano a nuisance candidate and cancelled his certificate of candidacy, or COC, after a petition claimed his nickname was too similar to D.V., the nickname of a previous political contender. According to the ruling, while deliberately copying a nickname to mislead voters may show bad faith, similarity alone does not prove intent to deceive. The court also emphasized that merely alleging a lack of genuine intent to run, such as not actively campaigning, is not enough without substantial evidence. What does this ruling mean for future candidates? How will it affect nuisance petitions moving forward? Also, with the barangay and sangguniang kabataan elections fast approaching, millions of Filipinos are already taking steps to make their voices heard. According to COMELEC, voter registration applications for the upcoming BSKE have now breached the 2 million mark. As of February 15, a total of 2,135,181 applications have been received nationwide, a strong sign of public engagement ahead of the polls. Data show that the majority of applicants are women, numbering over 1.1 million, while male applicants have reached just over 1 million. Breaking down the figures further, more than 556,000 are new registrants aged 18 and above. Meanwhile, youth participation is also notable, with nearly 581,000 new applicants aged 15 to 17 signing up for the Sangguniang Kabataan elections. The voter registration period resumed on October 20, 2025 and will continue until May 18, 2026, giving more Filipinos the opportunity to register before the barangay and SK elections on November 2, 2026. What does this surge in registration mean for grassroots democracy? Are we seeing a rise in youth civic engagement? And how prepared is COMELEC to handle the growing number of voters? Let's talk about these in today's program with COMELEC spokesperson Director John Rex Laudianco when we come back in front and center after a few reminders from the station.
Sa isang bagong Pilipinas, hindi dapat makamba ang pamilyang Pilipino sa mga bayarin sa ospital. Kaya naman sa Zero Billing Policy, libre ang inyong paggamot sa lahat ng mga Department of Health hospitals. Mapa-inpatient, outpatient, o emergency services. Isama na rin ang mga mamahaling gamot, lab tests, therapy, at marami pang iba. Libre ang inyong paggamot. Ang pangangalaga sa kalusugan ng mamamayan ay ang ating pangunahing tungkulin dahil ang serbisyong medikal ay karapatan at hindi dagdag pasanin.
And now we're back here in Front and Center. And I'm your host for today's edition, Steph Vicente. Joining us right now via phone patch is Director John Rex Laudianco, who is the spokesperson of the Commission on Elections or COMELEC. Director Laudianco, welcome to Front and Center. This is Steph Vicente again of Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Good morning, Ma'am Steph, and to all the listeners and viewers of Front and Center in Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Magandang umaga po.
Thank you so much for joining us again in the program. Director Laudianco, how is the Commission on Elections or COMELEC responding to the recent ruling of the Supreme Court that having a similar nickname is not enough to declare a candidate a nuisance?
The COMELEC welcomes this as a development to the case laws in the Philippines. While it necessarily restricts the reasons why COMELEC can declare a person as a nuisance candidate, but this is a learning lesson for the COMELEC. The Supreme Court upheld that the similarity of nicknames, when intentionally made to confuse the voters, can still be a valid ground to declare a nuisance candidate. However, in the case at the present, it appears that this is not the issue. It's just a similarity of nickname to a former candidate who was not even a candidate at all in the recent election. So this is considered as law in the Philippines, and COMELEC will duly follow the pronouncement and order of the Supreme Court.
In this regard, Director Laudianco, will this ruling change how COMELEC handles nuisance candidate petitions moving forward?
Definitely, we will be changing our approach in declaring nuisance candidates. Mere similarity of nicknames cannot be considered as a ground now as to declare as a nuisance candidate. But if there is still a finding that accompanying a similarity of nicknames and the intention to deliberately model the election and confuse the voters as to the real candidates, then definitely COMELEC will still be implementing and deciding to declare as nuisance candidates those earning persons, Ma'am Steph.
And just for the information of our listeners, what clear standards will COMELEC now use to determine if a candidate truly intends to confuse voters? Of course, just for a refresher, what are the current standards which serve as guidelines for COMELEC?
Of course, definitely the ruling of the Supreme Court cannot now confine COMELEC to mere certificates of candidacy. In order to assure that all the candidates are bona fide candidates and are there to really compete in the elections, we have to go beyond the certificates of candidacy. We have to determine through our field officers if it's the person really has this name or nickname, or it's using such in an everyday basis. This is not mere concoction or just used for purposes of election. So we really have to determine, go on the ground and see to it that the intention of the candidates is really to bona fide run for the elections and not to destroy the candidacy of any others, or worse, confuse the voters as who the real candidates are.
And what actually qualifies as substantial evidence in proving a lack of genuine intent to run for public office?
For example, a person will use a nickname which he does not customarily use. It's a mere invention for purposes of the certificates of candidacy, knowing that another candidate is known in the locality for using that nickname. Another is that those who have filed, but during their interviews, during their actions after the filing of the COCs, it's just they're making a mockery out of the election process. As we had seen in the past, there are those who just want their 15 seconds or 15 minutes of fame. After filing the certificates of candidacy, they will be interviewed, and that they just want to be seen on TV or heard on radios, and they will be saying so many out of this world things, like they were sent by the angels and the devils and that they believe in the stars. And for example, another is the characters that they display. There are several candidates who run for senator, but when interviewed or during the campaign sorties, they are committing to perform functions which do not belong to lawmakers. This delves deeper into their attitude, showing that they have no bona fide intention to run, and they don't even understand the position that they are vying for.
And now, how does the Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, balance protecting voters from confusion while also safeguarding a candidate's right to run?
There are three standards remaining in declaring a nuisance candidate. First is that a person runs just to make a mockery out of the elections, or the second one is the confusion, creating a confusion out of the candidates so that the voters will be confused as to who the real candidates are. And the third one is that they had no bona fide intention to run. For example, another candidate filed the COC, but immediately after filing the COC, they cannot be seen anywhere. They did not even participate in the campaign period, in the campaigning. So these are the three standards. While the aspect of the political machinery, the expenses or the money to sustain the campaign had also been taken out by the Supreme Court in ruling, this necessarily restricts. But then again, the COMELEC is learning. We will apply the rulings of the Supreme Court. We will apply the spirit of the law in the nuisance candidate much better this time, after learning what characteristics we are going to center onto, Ma'am Steph.
Director Laudianco, the Supreme Court also said that simply alleging a lack of campaign activity is not enough proof or of being a nuisance candidate. What is the reaction of COMELEC to this?
We likewise subscribe and believe in the Supreme Court. That is why that cannot only be the sole reason to declare a candidate as a nuisance candidate. We have to look into other circumstances, other pieces of evidence to jive with this. Not just inactivity, but also the lack of a genuine intention to run. There are so many other things that we could infer this from: interviews, actions after the filing of the COC, their background. Even we can go even to their background. While this necessarily means that there are more legworks to be done by COMELEC, we are still hopeful that the law is still effective, and that the guidance of the Supreme Court will really help us ferret the legitimate candidates from those who are merely nuisance candidates.
Thank you so much for that answer, Director Laudianco. Now, moving forward to another topic, in regards to voter registration and the 2026 barangay and SK elections. Voter registration for the BSKE 2026 has already surpassed 2 million applicants. What does this indicate about public engagement?
That this really makes the COMELEC glad and happy to see that Filipino voters, the oncoming voters are maturing. They are engaging more now more than ever in the history of Philippine elections. We have seen the fervor in their intentions to participate. The Filipinos now are more awake, more involved, perhaps with the recent controversies that we have. But in all these things, we see hope. Hope in that the people will really use the elections to choose capable, qualified, and worthy leaders that can help us bring the Philippines towards progress. So this is a heartening development for the Commission on Elections. That is why we are more inspired to develop programs, do innovations in the elections to bring this service closer to the Filipinos.
And of course, we're seeing strong youth participation again, like the previous election, including applicants aged 15 to 17 for the SK polls. How significant is this trend?
There had been a lot of people saying that the SK should be abolished and that it is just merely an addition to the bureaucracy of the Philippines. But the COMELEC considers this as a proper training ground for future leaders, and that is why the youth involvement in the elections really is very material and very important. As we had seen in the 2025 elections, practically more than half of the voters are youth, and they carried the elections to a better result. That is why several dynasties fell down and didn't win, and there are several names who had previously been considered as non-winners but were made to win because of the Filipino youth votes. And we expect to see more of this participation in the future, especially now that the jumping ground for the 2028 national and local elections is actually the barangay and SK elections. So the barangay and SK elections, which will happen in November 2 this year, will be a barometer of what will be happening in the 2028 presidential elections. We see a lot of hope and promises in the barangay and SK elections, Ma'am Steph.
Also, there are slightly more female participants than male, or female applicants rather, than male applicants. Is COMELEC observing any notable voting trends from this data?
Not necessarily. Based on the recent statistics from the Philippine Statistics Authority, there are really more women in the Philippines than men. And so that is why we are expecting that really more women will be registering for us. There are really more women who will be voting. What we expect, however, to see as a better development is that there will be more women candidates in future elections. And that is our hope. If there are more women voting, if there are more women registrants, then it is but natural for more women to run in the elections. And not just run, but to win in the elections. This is a hope for the Commission on Elections on gender equality and gender empowerment for our women. This is a very welcome development.
And of course, oh, it seems that our communication has been interrupted. We will call again Director Lodianco because the following questions are just as important as our previous ones. Okay, it seems that his line is busy. We're trying again to call of course. We were suddenly interrupted, Director Laudianco. So my next question would be with registration running until May 18, 2026, how prepared are local COMELEC offices to handle more applicants?
Well, the scenario happening in the last week and the last few days is expected to we are expected to receive a volume of registrants. We are now making efforts to lessen this. So we are now going to making satellite registrations, going to barangays and community centers to bring the registration to the people. We're also doing mall registration, special register anywhere programs, so that there will be lesser people who will flock to our offices come the last week and the last few days of the elections. We're also appealing to our fellow men that if it's possible, go out now to our offices and register while the lines are still not that long, because conglomerating on the last day, converging on the last days of the elections will definitely put a strain not just on the manpower of the COMELEC but also on the facilities. Most of our offices are quite small and there are very few offices with proper queuing lines, and that is why we are appealing to the public. Please, if you're intending to register, please do it now while the lines are still long, and you will be given more time to appreciate the convenience of our office. So please register now and do not wait for the last week or last few days of registration.
Aside from what you have mentioned just now, are there other logistical or technical challenges so far in processing registrations nationwide?
So far, we are encountering a number of technical challenges, but we are trying to increase the voter registration machines that we have on hand by augmenting it from a current inventory of the Commission on Elections. We're also augmenting the personnel, even hiring emergency job order casuals, so as to facilitate the lines and to prepare for the convergence of the people on the last few days. But then again, we are intensifying our community-based approach on registrations and bringing this closer, making announcements on social media so that more people will be made aware and participate. And also, we are also extending and expanding the special Register Anywhere program so that the people who intend to register in their localities in some other regions need not go home just to register. They just need to proceed to the special Register Anywhere program while they are in Metro Manila or someplace near, and they can be assured that their registration will proceed in their hometowns, in their home regions. So these are a few of the conveniences COMELEC is offering to our people, and also those who are working in call centers who are usually present in their places of work around midnight and the wee hours of the morning. We are also doing Register Anytime program in select localities so that they may register even beyond the 5 p.m. cutoff. This is specifically tailored for those workers who are performing their jobs at night and they're only available in the wee hours of the morning. So all of these are being done by COMELEC to bring the services closer to the people.
Meanwhile, Director Laudianco, what measures are in place to prevent double registration or fraudulent applications?
All applications will be subjected to the automated fingerprint identification system and they will be subjected to a checking on the national list of registered voters. We have empowered our election officers so that an applicant's name, together with his birthday and place of birth and other data, including their current residence, will be effectively checked during the time of the application, so that if we found out that this person is already registered, we could readily inform him that you are already registered in somewhere in the Philippines. Why are you registering again? Perhaps you're intending to transfer and not file a new registration, or worse, we can determine those who have filed multiple registrations intending to be flying voters. So there are measures in place while during the application and even beyond the application during the processing of the voters registration application, just to ensure that there will be no double or multiple registrants and there will be no flying voters at the time of the election.
And before I let you go, Director Laudianco, what key reminders would you like to give eligible voters ahead of the November 2, 2026 barangay and SK elections? Go ahead.
The responsibilities of a voter comes not just on election day. Now we have the opportunity to determine who are the probable leaders, who are the probable candidates come the elections. So we have now to check what are their qualifications, what is their performance, are they empathic towards the people, do they have the heart and the means to help the people in their to serve and to perform their mandate. Because for SK officials, this is not just the liga or the sports. They have so many other functions, especially in the development of the youth in the barangays. And we have to hold them accountable to this. So it is therefore imperative for all voters to vote not just those who are qualified, but those who are capable to lead and perform their jobs. And lastly, let us check, do these candidates come with the filing of the certificates of candidacy? Do they uphold the law? Do they conform to the law? And do they otherwise obligate themselves to perform within the bounds and the metes of the law? Because perhaps they are capable, perhaps they have the qualifications, but they have been violating laws left and right. We cannot put them into office. We need to put people whom we can trust to uphold the law and enforce the law within our community. So these are additional standards in being a responsible voter applicable to all Filipinos nationwide.
And with that, thank you again, Director Laudianco, for joining us again here in Front and Center. Until next time, mabuhay po kayo.
Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay po kayo.
And we were just joined by Director John Rex Laudianco, who is the Commission on Elections or COMELEC spokesperson. At this point, we'll be ending today's edition of Front and Center. We would first like to thank our technical team or technical staff composed of Milo Jonella, Susan Aison, Hiro Lucero, and Justin Osias, who made this program possible. Thank you as well to our station manager, Mr. Ray Sampang. Stay tuned here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service for more updates. And as mentioned earlier, we're now back on shortwave radio. Front and Center is part of our English service, which airs from 10 o'clock to 11:30 in the morning. That's Philippine Standard Time. You may listen to us via the following shortwave frequencies: 12.020 megahertz, 15.640 megahertz, and 17.665 megahertz. We also have our Facebook live streaming, that's audio and video, and our Evox PBS receiver app. I'll just have a refresher for you on how to download the said application. As mentioned, you may download the said application via Google Play Store if you are using an Android phone, or via App Store if you are using an iPhone. Once you have entered the Evox PBS receiver app, just find the logo of Radyo Pilipinas World Service in order for you to be able to listen live to our programs, of course, like Front and Center. Until the next edition of our program, on behalf of our colleague Jerome Toledo, this has been your host, Steph Vicente. Good day and stay safe, everyone.
You have just heard and watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center.